it affects everything going down.
If
when the
she
leader
actually
is
has
that
power,
far
if she
left.
actually has power and influence over the editors, I think.
The other test of that is you can listen to NPR, and it itself is a parody of.
But again, another thing. Shocker. NPR's liberal. Wow, you're kidding me.
No, this isn't liberalism. It was always liberal. It was fine.
Right.
You could listen to liberal. This is social justice every single day.
This is her, and the question is, how much influence does she actually have? Before we all lose our fucking minds, how much influence does she actually have? I don't think she does. I honestly don't. I can't imagine this. She's been there 15 minutes, one. Two, you know who runs that place. It's the editors. They do. It is not the CEO.
And they are on the far left as well.
I wouldn't say far left. I'd say they're liberal. They're typical. To me, they're garden variety liberals. Secondly, now here's their problem: is they should stop being national public radio and just rely on donors and get what they want and do whatever the hell they feel like. That's my feeling.
Yeah.
And what is amusing is all these right wingers are like, see what you said. I'm like, free speech. She can say what she wants.
I'm in favor of having free speech.
Right.
I wouldn't want to punish her for free speech. Certainly not free speech.
That's what you're
free
talking
speech
about,
before
don't
she
you?
got the job.
Right.
But I'm just saying, for someone who has grown, just laughs literally within 2 minutes of turning on NPR at how absurdly. I think they have in the last since Trump got elected. I think yes. I think
everybody has.
Worse.
Then everybody has, right? Including the right wing media, right? They've gotten worse. They have not been as true to conservative values as they used to.
No, absolutely. And I've been a brutal critic of those who betrayed, I think, our basic conservative ideas. But I do not believe the left is guilt-free on this at all.
I don't think they are. I just don't think it. I think NPR is NPR. Look, that guy, whatever that's what he thinks. He should work elsewhere. That's how I feel like. If you don't like that, and to say we don't have media that's been, again, you're surprised we have media that has points of view. I've always thought media.
The point of view is that starts with the premise that America is itself a white supremacist, patriarchal, heterosexist form of oppression, is going to frame every single story within that rubric, because that's the fundamental truth from their point of view. So the idea of doing just a regular story, setting someone out, trying to find out what's out there, maybe it'll be surprising, maybe it'll be interesting, maybe something you didn't expect, that is out of the question.
Well, I think the Washington Post you would consider liberal. I've thought they've done some really good stuff from some of these feature stories that they've been doing are really interesting.
I think the Washington Post is unreadable.
Really? I don't. I think their features are quite good. I would disagree with you.
Well, there you go. I think it's just a question
of
where I don't think
my spectacular.
Politics have changed, and yet every single story in the Washington Post that's in the news.
You don't think your politics have changed? Your politics have changed.
Really?
Yes.
In what way?
Yeah, because I think you trust people less in general. Not you in particular, but you in particular and you in general. I think people they go into reading something without any ability to say, even the New York Times, when there's a whole bunch of people like New York Times has gotten so right, and I'm like, okay,
well, that's obviously bonkers.
Well, it's not bonkers. There's a little bit of it. Like they in that piece they wrote about NPR, they didn't identify Chris Rufo quite correctly. They sort of like some guy who says something you might want to put in context, not to say right or left or whatever, but they didn't define him enough. And so people are always don't read the actual thing anymore. They read what the formula of the thing versus anything else. And I do think that people have always sorted themselves out into the media they like. I just think we had a period of time after Watergate where we thought everybody was fair and balanced, and that was never the case in American history. That's for sure. If you think about back in the day, they all had their own newspapers. Jefferson had his newspaper, Hamilton had his newspaper. British, you know what you're getting when you read British newspapers, don't you? You have this one's just this.
Yeah, absolutely. And if the New York Times would be to say that we are a newspaper dedicated to promoting social justice every day.
But they aren't.
Into exposing white supremacy every day.
Yeah.
And into featuring queer LGBTQIA plus people.
A lot of poly people in that paper.
The polycules every other. I mean, the whole thing
what is with the poly stuff? I'm like, is someone there in a polycule or something?
They think it's the next incredibly
we wrote about it
liberatory
10 years ago on Recode.
Look, all this stuff is good. Why are they obsessed with trans issues?
I don't know.
Because they think they all have Martin Luther King Jr. envy. They all want to be the next architect of the civil rights revolution.
I think they're a lot less interesting than that. I think they aren't. I would rather have very clear left and right publications that are interesting and actually are doing interesting things than I would have this kind of, I think the problem is they kind of are stumbling. They're nervous about everybody, every reaction whatsoever.
When I read the journal,
right.
The Wall Street Journal,
good.
it's a very good paper. I know it, but that's because I do see in its news columns a very different feel to its, I think, slightly bonkers editorial positions. I don't feel that in the Times. The Times is entirely an editorial
opinion
position.
has taken over the New York Times. I would agree with you on that.
Well, good. We have a little mild agreement.